the Diocese of San Jose, California. The story of the faith in this region began with the Spanish missions, was sustained by a humble and visionary bishop, and carries on today under the leadership of its current apostle, Bishop Oscar Cantú.
I think that's the brilliance of evangelization, taking the profound message of the gospel to present it in a way that it can still touch the human heart.
This is the story of the bishops of America, the shepherds of the past and the shepherds of today, who through their callings and ministry carry the church into the future. It's also the story of their parish, their church, the Cathedral. This is The Chair, an exploration of what it means to be an apostle in America. At the north end of the valley, south of the San Francisco Bay, sits the city of San Jose, the third largest city in California and the seat of the Diocese of San Jose.
What impressed me immediately was the multi-ethnic and multicultural reality of this diocese. San Jose is I've referred to it as an explosion of ethnicities. I find that tremendously energizing because many of them are Catholic, and that's part of the reason that San Jose has a much higher Catholic population than the West Bay or the East Bay. I think that there are tremendous possibilities here to crack open that treasure of faith.
Although San Jose has only been its own diocese since 1981, the roots of faith in this diocese run very deep, back to the 18th century Spanish missionary efforts in California, led by Saint Junipero Serra.
Originally part of what was known as Alta, or Upper California, the region originally fell under the jurisdiction of the Diocese of Sonora in Mexico. Franciscan missionaries were sent to establish the church's presence in the region and to help secure it for Spain, establishing a string of missions from San Diego to San Francisco along the Camino Real, or Royal Road.
The mission that Junipero Serra established in the area was Mission Santa Clara de Asís, which is the 8th Franciscan mission in the California area, the first mission named for a woman, named for St. Clare of Assisi.
St. Junipero was a Spanish Franciscan priest who founded the first 9 of the 21 Spanish missions in California. Pope Francis canonized Serra in September of 2015 during his first visit to the United States. The mission is the namesake of both the city and county of Santa Clara. It's also the only mission in California now located on the grounds of a university campus. Ruined and rebuilt 6 times, the settlement was never abandoned. Today it functions as the university chapel for Santa Clara University, which was established by the Jesuits in 1851. And so here at Santa Clara University, we see the influence of the 2 great religious orders that really brought and sustained the faith in California, the Franciscans and the Jesuits. While the Spanish Franciscans were the first to plant the faith in the area, Italian Jesuits who entered the region after being expelled from their homeland of the revolutions of 1848 continued this important work and to this day continue to serve the community of Santa Clara.
As refugees, they found a home in California. In addition to their educational ministry, the Jesuits at Santa Clara had helped to revive the vineyards that had been part of the old Spanish mission. And as part of that work, they even had some of the seminarians at the Jesuit novitiate to come and work to help with the harvest every year. And during Prohibition, they were known for the sacramental wine they were able to produce for religious purposes.
After the victory of the United States over Mexico in the Mexican-American War of 1848, California became part of the United States. And in 1850, it was admitted as a new state. San Jose, for a time, served as the state capital of California. Now, this fact reveals the historic and the cultural importance of the city. Pope Pius XI established the Archdiocese of San Francisco in 1853 and sent Bishop Alemany to serve as its first archbishop. Born in Spain, he requested to come to the United States as a missionary. Now, he's a Dominican, and he's very interested in education.
He was someone who was apparently very small in stature, but extraordinarily zealous and enthusiastic. He was a wonderful preacher and had a great deal of concern for the educational needs of the young people in the diocese. So really spent a great deal of time focusing on establishing schools as well as building the faith community.
For nearly 130 years, Catholics in this region were under the jurisdiction of the Archdiocese of San Francisco.
In 1981, the Diocese of San Jose was created, consisting of only one county, Santa Clara County, making it one of only a handful of dioceses in the United States that are only one county large.
The founding bishop of the Diocese of San Jose was Bishop Pierre Dumaine. He was ordained a priest for the Archdiocese of San Francisco in 1957 and went on to be a pastor and an educator. Bishop Dumaine was remembered as a man of great intelligence and wit. He was an extraordinary advocate of the reforms of Vatican II, and one of the things that he was keenly interested in was promoting a deep sense of community within the diocese. He saw this community rooted in three things: the Mass, the Pope, and the Blessed Mother. One of the things that he's noted for as bishop was he successfully undertook the largest privately funded renewal project of downtown San Jose, basically the restoration of the Cathedral Basilica of St. Joseph.
The first two churches were made out of adobe, and over the years, because of earthquakes, they would crack. I think around 1835 that happened, so they built a second adobe structure, and that also had the same problem. So in 1875, they built a wooden structure, the third church on the site, and 2 years later, it burnt down. And then this structure was built in actually 1877, fourth church on this site.
It's a jewel of downtown, it truly is. And he had this vision of the church, the cathedral church, as the bishop's church, the people's church, but also a place of culture for the community. So we've had San Jose Symphony Orchestra, we've had all kinds of wonderful events here.
It's a Beaux-Arts, sort of Spanish-inspired neoclassical cathedral. This building was selected in part because it is an icon of the diocese. It both represents the people of the diocese and symbolizes to them the apostolic authority of the Mother Church.
St. Joseph is distinguished because it's not only a cathedral, but it's also a basilica. Basilica is another designation in which the local bishop has to apply to Rome and prove to them three things. First, it has to prove its historic value to the area. In the long history of St. Joseph's, it was easy to do that. You have to show its artistic value, and of course, the beauty inside, it speaks for itself. And then you have to prove your social value, what you do for the community. And being here since 1803 and our social outreach programs that have been so influential in dealing with the homeless in downtown San Jose. And so in proving all those things, we got the designation of Basilica.
This facade is extremely grand and very beautiful. In neoclassical style, it uses this language of sacred geometry, which really is extremely harmonious. It's based on the golden mean. And when we think about the nature of God and the first creational acts described in Genesis, bringing order to the skies, separating the light from dark, the sea from land. And so we see that same giving of order in the neoclassical style, or in the classical vocabulary. So one processes through a portico, which has a pediment supported by 4 columns. So 4 columns representing the 4 Gospels. You enter through 3 doors, which also call to mind the Trinitine nature of God. Above the central door is the Christogram IHS, or the monogram, Jesus Hominum Salvator, Jesus Christ, Savior of men. Jesus tells us in the Gospel of John, I am the gate. So walking through this central door, this portal into the church, is to take up Jesus on his invitation to enter through him. Liturgical artistry really flows from the architecture. You have stained glass, murals. There is stonework and metalwork. So this is a really enduring style, and it really brings to mind the eternal nature of heaven. So there's nothing that feels transitory or passing or trendy about the construction or style of this. And in fact, this architecture is in a way imported from another time and place, but then also very much imbued with the local Spanish history of San Jose. Since its late 19th century construction, the cathedral has undergone many renovations. The style of the artwork and the finishes have remained true to the style of the architecture, and the liturgical elements have progressed and changed over time.
As soon as you walk through the doors, you go from chaos to peace. I'm always amazed to watch people as they come in, their eyes go directly to the paintings in the ceiling. Yeah, there's just a reverence about it that kind of screams church, screams religious faith. It's such a legacy that we've inherited here that we're really lucky.
For the people of San Jose, their living connection to the ministry of Peter is the bishop. And in each cathedral, the chair or cathedra represents his authority as a successor of the apostles.
Well, I was born and raised in Houston. I was born to immigrant parents from Mexico. There are 8 of us, and I'm the 5th of the 8. 5 boys and 3 girls. My father had a 6th grade education. Although he didn't have a formal education, just a tremendously bright man. Him showing us his blue-collar hands said, stay in school so you don't have to work as hard as I do. My mom was sort of the soul of the family, and very faithful to our faith and to our church. Sunday Mass, there was no question about it that we went together as a family. I was never attracted to kind of particularly churchy things. I like sports, I like the outdoors, I like being with friends and activities. One of the pastors that we had, he was quite the Renaissance man. And so he would come out and play with the kids. Those were just fantastic memories. And, being a priest didn't necessarily mean being in the sacristy all the time. Once I was old enough, and in middle school, I went to explore. So this camp was actually at the seminary, at St. Mary's Seminary. It was visited by many of the young priests in the diocese. We would talk about issues of our faith. So I started thinking of my own life in parallel to their stories, and wondered whether, not that I was interested, but I wondered if God was calling me to be a priest. And so out of pure curiosity, I asked God that question. I began to imagine myself doing what a priest does. And in all of that, I saw myself tremendously happy. And I realized that that was God saying yes, that he was calling me to be a priest.
Father Cantú was ordained to the priesthood on May 21st, 1994, for the Diocese of Houston. As a priest, he relied on his love for literature in order to make the gospel stories come alive to his people.
What has been helpful for me is my love for literature, for poetry and for story. But I came to an epiphany that nobody in the church is sitting at a desk. None of them is taking notes. And I asked myself the question, what will they remember in 3 days? My niche became the telling of stories, and most of them were personal stories, things that I experienced or in my life, from my history, from my family. That's what Jesus did. He told stories. I think that's the brilliance of evangelization, is taking the profound message of the gospel to present it in a way that it can still touch the human heart.
As a priest, Cantú worked in parishes throughout the Houston metropolitan area. He taught at the University of St. Thomas and at St. Mary's Seminary, and in 2008 was named an auxiliary bishop of San Antonio.
It was Holy Week. I was visiting the kids in the school, and my assistant, Father Michael, called me on my cell phone. He said, "Oscar, are you on campus?" I said, "Yeah, I'm visiting the kids." He says, "The nuncio just called. He just called twice. Do you have his number?" I said, "Yeah, I've got him on speed dial." I said, "No." I said, "Look," I said, I'll be over in a minute." And my imagination was going wild. I called him back, and it was Archbishop Sambi at that time, God rest his soul. He says, you studied in Rome. He says, you studied scripture. I said, "No, Archbishop, I studied sacraments." "I think you have the wrong person." He says, "No, I have the right person." He says, the Holy Father has appointed you as auxiliary bishop of San Antonio. Recently, I was looking at pictures from my early years as a bishop. I had a lot more hair and darker hair, fewer wrinkles.
In January 2013, Cantú was named the second bishop of the Diocese of Las Cruces, New Mexico. A few years later, in July of 2018, Pope Francis appointed him coadjutor bishop of San Jose, California. In May 2019, Bishop Oscar Cantú became the third bishop of San Jose.
I remember when I was speaking with the gentleman who helped me develop the coat of arms, the question he asked me was, what are the motivating factors of your life? I talked to him about that experience of growing up, of the family table, where we would come together on those Saturday afternoons and share a wonderful meal, and my dad would share stories with us, and we learned the lessons of life at the family table. And my mother, she was always the host. Whenever we had friends over to the house, or we were in the backyard playing basketball, rather than sending them home, I would just invite them in for lunch. And, my mom never bat an eye. That sense of hospitality is something that I have taken to the altar. So the table at the center of the coat of arms has a double significance, the family table and the table of the Eucharist. So those are the two places that I've been formed.
In the years since becoming bishop, Bishop Cantú has worked hard to lead his flock towards Christ, especially in the midst of the challenges caused by the pandemic.
One of the things that we noticed in San Jose was that there was a real uptick of people connecting to the church during the pandemic, especially early on, when people were really worried with the shelter-in-place orders and people losing their jobs, and had neighbors who were in hospital and with the virus, and some who had lost their lives, and all of those stories that it was really hitting home for all of us. It became something very real and scary, because there was a lot we didn't know about the virus. Still don't know. Through this pandemic, I've been meeting with the pastors every week, virtually, to talk about other issues as well. And I shared with them, I said, this is a real golden opportunity for us, because people are connecting to us that perhaps have not been connected to the church for a while. And, this is the spiritual reality that when we're down, God is up. And so they're searching, for a message of hope, wondering what we might say, wondering if we can give them some light in the midst of darkness. One, it's going to be important that we continue to reach out in non-traditional ways to people, because evangelization is utterly necessary, especially in Silicon Valley, in a very secularized culture. And now they've connected. Once we open up our doors physically, they may not be ready to quite walk in the doors. So how do we keep an eye on them and continue to reach out? I'm very hopeful that that has opened up an avenue of ingenuity to continue to think outside the box about evangelization. So I think that there are some real opportunities, and I think that the vulnerability that the pandemic has placed all of us in has provided an opportunity of open hearts. So I'm very hopeful about this moment.